am Toni, Dr. Toni. You are all welcome to call me Toni. I know some people prefer to call me Dr. Toni. Either one is fine. I take no offense either way, but welcome here today. I'm so excited to talk with you because I've been having these really passionate conversations with myself and with others. And I wanted to come on and talk with you all because I haven't been on in a few weeks. And you know what, I tried to do the very static, like push myself to do videos or be on XYZ social media at certain times on certain days, at these consistent days and hours and so on and so forth. And what I have found is there's a time and a place for that. There was a time when that was working for me, but at this point in time, at this season in my life and in my business, what's working best for me is to show up passionately, to show up within this very clear space when I am feeling called to, when it feels like it's a really important conversation and topic for me to address. Okay, so I'm really excited to be here with you all. I have a couple screens going on right now, so my apologies if my eyes are kind of averting. I'm doing something a little bit different. I know I'm recording this, so I can share it with you all on YouTube, but I'm also in my Facebook community, The Reset. If you're not part of it, come join us. And Facebook Live's not working right now, so I'm using this group setup and I'm using it on my phone. And so I have a couple different screens happening at the moment that I'm not used to using. So hopefully you all can see me and hear me. We roll with it, right? We work with what we got and we make it work. So I want to talk on this specific conversation. I want to talk to you all about challenging yourself differently. Okay, because many of you have, if you're attracted to my words, my work, what I do, my vibe, then you probably are someone who has been hard on yourself. You're probably someone that has felt frustrated, has felt resentful, even though you don't want to admit it, because you push yourself really hard and you probably do challenge yourself in many ways. But I'm going to ask you to kind of challenge yourself in a different way, or at least to look at this in a different way, okay? Now, many of you have probably heard the famous quote by Maya Angelou. She says, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Now, that can easily be taken as a cliche sort of quote. And honestly, once things hit mainstream and masses and masses of people are talking about them and know about them, I found that they do often lose their potency and become more of that cliche, oh yeah, it's something to say, but not really something to feel into. And I'm so guilty of that. I have done that. That's what I did for most of my life. It's only within the past, I want to say maybe handful of years, where all those cliche statements that I used to roll my eyes at hit me in a different way. I feel them in a different way. They have a different significance for me in my life now than they ever did before. And this is one of them. So I'm going to read it again. I love Maya. I'm a huge, huge fan of Maya. I've learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Now, even if you have heard this quote before, and even if you are a Maya fan like I am, you probably didn't know that even though Maya said this, and it's so powerful and relevant, that what you probably didn't know at the time, because science was not yet caught up with this at the time, is that brain research actually fully supports this very same concept that she is standing for in that quote. Because we can so easily get caught up in trying to convince people that we are right and therefore they are wrong, or in trying to prove our abilities and success through our accomplishments, like, for example, me gaining lots of degrees, credentials. Maybe you are someone who pushes yourself really hard to gain lots of awards so that you can prove your enoughness or show or demonstrate or provide evidence of your abilities. You have to prove it and show it in some way. Maybe you show that through salary boosts, as you feel like if I get a higher salary, then that will show that I am able to provide. That will show that I am worthy of what I do. That will show that I'm the best of the best, right? Whatever the case is, we can so easily get caught up in trying to prove ourselves, our abilities, our worth, our success through our accomplishments, through our intense action. Or we could get caught up in trying to get people to do what we want. What comes to mind the strongest for this one is in parenting. Is that because I said so mentality. It doesn't work anymore. I mean, the only reason it would have ever worked in the first place was because it incites fear, right? And fear-based living, fear-based relationships, they do not feel as fulfilling. They don't. They tend to put kind of a gap between you and the other person. So yeah, maybe you'll get the person to comply. Maybe you'll get your children to comply. And if it's an urgent safety situation, when a truck's coming by and your kid's running out, right? Then that makes sense. You just want them to comply to be safe. But all in all, we want our children to be able to make reasonable, responsible, informed decisions, not decisions based on compliance, right? So it's easy though, as parents who are living hustle bustle life, or as business people, or as an entrepreneur, as just a general busy professional, for you to just want people to do what you want. You know best in certain areas, or you're the expert in certain areas, or you're the oldest, or you're the wisest in certain areas. Just do this. I'm telling you, just do it. And then we can move on. We'll be done, right? And so while there may be a time and place for that, momentarily, situationally, by and large, we don't want to get so caught up in just getting people to do what we want. We do not want to get caught up in just creating a compliance-based relationship system within our lives. None of us would like the way that feels if we were the ones that had to comply either, right? And so I'm not saying that all of this trying to comply or trying to make yourself right or prove yourself in some way, I'm not saying that all of that is bad and all of that is wrong all of the time. But what I am saying is that all of that does not come anywhere close to helping us really live a loving and fulfilling, compassionate, purposeful, meaningfully contributing, meaningfully connecting kind of life. Not at work, not at home, or elsewhere within ourselves. It doesn't actually help us fuel that flame of feeling these truly meaningful connections, these deeply meaningful contributions, and these uplifting, deep appreciation type experiences within our interactions. It doesn't help with that. Those things of needing to prove, getting caught up and needing to prove that you're right, needing to prove that you're enough, that you are capable, all of these things, if that's where the space you're living in, it's devoid of these deeper felt meaning experiences. Okay. And so it's how we feel. It's really how we feel. It's how we show up and how we influence the emotional state of others. It's that, hey, Ed, it is that makes the most difference. And what brain science shows us is that when we have an elevated emotion, our brain wants to wire that in, to fire that in, to hold on to that. If we're able to have this elevated emotion in an interaction, and we repeat that, this feels good, this feels good, this feels good, right? So what Maya says about noticing how you make someone feel is so powerful. Because if we're aware of how we make someone feel, if we're aware of how we feel, rather than getting caught up in all that other stuff, now we're creating deeper connections. Now we're able to even more deeply and meaningfully contribute. Does that make sense, right? So it's the felt experience that helps our brains wire in what feels safe, what feels meaningful within our relationships. And I'm not saying to just willy-nilly give up all the things that I mentioned above again, okay? But I am saying that at the very least, if you try focusing on how you feel more, and if you try letting how you feel be important, but you don't expect others to fix it or to be responsible for all of your feelings, you take your own responsibility, right? You take your own responsibility to be aware of how you feel and to tend to that. Then what happens is you'll start rewiring your brain for more self-compassion. And when you have more self-compassion, well, that's the doorway to increase compassion for all. for others. And when you have increased compassion for yourself and others, you know how your presence affects other people's feelings. And then, dear one, dear friend, dear person, dear professional, whomever you are, however you identify yourself, well, then you're going to feel something that feels like magic. It feels like a release. It feels lighter. It feels like meaningful connection. It feels like meaningful contribution. It feels more fulfilling and joyful and fun, and others will notice it. And they will be inspired by your very existence, and you'll be creating golden ripples in your life and within the lives of others with what feels like very little, if any, effort at all. And if you don't believe me, that's okay, because guess what? I'm not here to convince you. I have nothing to prove. I don't need to prove this to you or to anyone else. I'm not going to say that my way is the one right way or my perspective is the one right perspective, because I choose not to get caught up in that anymore like I had before in the past. I know that that's not going to lead me where I want. And it's also probably not going to lead you where you want either, right? So I'm here to simply share, to inspire through my example, to offer this as an opportunity to go deeper, to explore, to challenge yourself differently, to pay attention to your emotions, not to give them the steering wheel and not to numb or avoid them, but to pay attention to how you feel. So then you can go ahead and you can become more aware of how others are impacted by your presence, of how others may feel. When you do that, that felt difference is so, it's almost unexplainable because it's so deeply felt that words can't quite capture it. Right? And so if you decide that you want to give this a try and you want some support, you can reach out. We'll see for a good fit. And I'll be more than glad to discuss the opportunities that I presently have to working together. At this time of this recording, I am going to be within the next few weeks opening up a wait list for enrollment for a January 2022 cohort and a few select one-to-one spots. So if that's something that's of interest to you, so that you can really amplify your lived experience and become more aware of how to manage your emotions in all aspects of life, as well as how to be aware of others, happy to support you. Thank you all so much for joining me today. Thank you for being with me. Thank you for listening, for tuning in. And until next time, have an amazing, healthy, wealthy, loving, compassionate filled day and life. See y'all.